This is the story of one of the most enjoyable and eventful 24-hour karting races I've ever done. Team 68 reached out to me to join their team in the D-Max category for the 24-hour Daytona Milton Keynes karting race. This is a multi-class endurance kart race. There were 27 teams in the D-Max category, which is a rental kart with a restricted 2-stroke Rotax Junior Max engine, and there were 22 teams in the Saudi category, which are normal 4-stroke rental karts, the SR5 model. So there were 47 drivers on track throughout this race. The minimum weight for each driver was 85 kilos, and you would be weighed every time you enter the pit lane. Ballast weight could be added with lead on your kart seat or with lead on the posts. The expectations for our team were high in this race because last year they had finished P2. Our team consisted of 7 drivers, so we had myself, Tom, Harrison, Jensen, Bal, Jack and Philip. Shout out to Guy Williams as well from GWI Racing, who helped me a lot with filming everything in this race. The race would start on Saturday afternoon and would end on Sunday afternoon. So our race strategy was for Tom and Philip to take care of the wet weather driving, which was expected from midnight to early morning, and since they're the wet weather experts, they can handle that. The rest of the hours would be divided between myself, Harrison, Jensen, Bal and Jack. The race weekend began on Friday, which is where all of the drivers attended the mandatory briefing. We then set up our tents at our designated spots, and the team captains did a kart draw for the one and only kart we would use for the entire weekend. To round off everything, we did a 3-hour practice session in the evening to get used to our karts and assess each other's pace. The vibes on Friday evening were already amazing because all of the teams were arriving at the track and setting up camp for the weekend. You could feel the anticipation for the race ahead. And additionally, the weather was beautiful that evening, which is always a positive when you do karting outdoors. We drew kart 132 in the draw, which certainly was not the fastest kart. We did have some key issues, such as the engine bogging down a lot in the corners, and the engine will not top out in the straights compared to other karts. Additionally, the brake pedal had a lot of travel, which would eventually impact us the following day in the race. Nonetheless, you can't make excuses about the karts in rental karting. They're heavily used and they will have differences between them. Although the mechanics will do their best to maintain the karts as much as possible, at the end of the day, it's your luck which type of kart you get. So draw your kart, get to know it as best as possible in practice, and then push flat out in the race regardless of any issues. Race day had arrived and we got to the track early to do a track walk. The weather was outstanding and the sun was out in full force. Harrison was our fastest driver from practice the day before, so he would complete qualifying today and start the race for our team. He managed to qualify P12, so there was a lot of work to do in the race.
I think there was definitely more pace in the kart as well. I think there was a few times where I felt like I was on a really flying lap, and then I'd get to turn 7 and the brakes on our kart seem really like, well, you know what it's like, it's quite on or off, so all of a sudden I'll go into the braking zone and it will lock and the rear tries to travel around too much, and then that's probably a few tenths there.
But what's the plan for the race now? Is it send it?
Just
gotta go forward.
Can't go backwards. Go forwards and just do the best we can.
And the strategy for the race then was just to send it. Now Harrison did a mega stint, and he worked his way from P12 to P5. Fuel in the D-Max will last around 90 minutes, so during the pit stops, you can change drivers and refuel as well. Jensen substituted for Harrison and continued the great work by moving us up to P4, and he also made inroads on P3. It was then time for Jack to take the wheel for his stint. We've got the first stint coming up now, and the boys Harrison, Jensen, Jack have put mega double stints in. They got us from P12 to P3. So our job is to hold that position, stay out of trouble, keep the overtakes consistent, avoid any penalties, don't speed in the pit lane, don't bump anyone off track. Simple as that. These boys have absolutely dragged us to the podium. We got to do our job. We're on video.
That's
so
fine, perfect, that's all good.
I'll hit record, yeah?
Yeah, will you put it on the top? It's the top right. Top right, yeah.
What did Kimmy say? What did Kimmy say?
Kimmy? I don't know, what did he say? I've forgotten.
Come on.
I've forgotten.
Leave me alone, I know what I'm doing.
You know what we're doing.
So Kimmy said, right?
Oh, Kimmy Raikkonen.
Kimmy Raikkonen? Yeah. There's only one Kimmy, come on.
Kimmy Antonelli?
Oh, true.
Haha! Out F1! Out F1! And I don't know what F1.
That's your generation, yeah. There were only a few laps until the mandatory maintenance window opened, and that's when teams would be called in one at a time. I was ready to go out next, and at the time, we didn't know you could do a driver swap and do a maintenance stop at the same time. So we called Jack in before the maintenance window to substitute with me, and then within a couple of laps, when I was out on track, I got the message from race control to pit in for our maintenance stop. So we lost so much time by doing an extra pit stop, and we were demoted down to P5 at this stage. Now listen to what the mechanic tells me in my maintenance stop.
Easier on the brakes, a little bit more lifting, and you should be able to save your pads, but they're already more than half worn.
So our brake pads were quite worn at this stage, but I battled on and tried my best to push flat out. But it got really bad, and at one stage, there simply was no feeling on the brakes into the heavy braking points. So I lost a lot of time, and the drivers behind caught up. I actually ended up using a technique where I'd coast initially and then be progressive on the brakes just to slow the kart down. So you can imagine corner to corner, lap by lap, losing precious seconds. And guess who caught up right behind me? Cameron Das. He was also participating in this endurance race, and it was awesome to race with him. And then this happened. Yep, my brakes pretty much failed, and I nearly took Cameron out of the race. But I was relieved to somehow save the kart into turn 8, and then limp on for the remainder of my stint. Right, we just finished one of the most intense stints that I've ever done, pushing out there like crazy, battling through traffic. You see, the unique thing about this 24 hours is you're always focused because there's a kart in front, whether it's a Sodi or a D-Max, and that trains your mind not to be sloppy. Constantly focused, you're locking onto the target in front. Do I overtake to the left, do I overtake to the right? And those overtakes are so important. The moment you get stuck behind, which happened a couple of times to me, you lose time. 1 second, 2 seconds, and that adds up. So overall, the team reported back, they're happy with my pace, because we were technically keeping the pace for P3. Unfortunately, we had to do that extra maintenance stop. So we got to take that in our stride, and we know now for next time, if there's a maintenance stop, you can also change drivers. It is what it is, you live to learn. Main thing is I drove my heart out there. I was on the edge because of those brakes. They were pretty worn, but I've got another stint after the rain. Bal took over from me for his stint and brought the kart back in P6. What time do you report back to track? Because I'll get some sleep now.
Yeah, go get some sleep, but then get back here. If you could serve everyone back here for about no later than 8 o'clock.
No later than 8, super.
Yeah, 8.
At this point, it was midnight. With the rain fast approaching, Tom substituted with Bal. As optimistic as we were to gain positions back during this rain period, this time the sprocket bent twice and forced us to pit for long maintenance stops. Additionally, we got involved in some on-track incidents and actually got called into the pits a couple of times for a black flag so the marshals could have a word with us about the driving standards. So by this time, all of the hard work we'd done 12 hours into the race had been undone by hour 15. So by starting P12, we worked our way up all the way to P3 and then drop all the way back down now to P12. Additionally, we were now many laps down to the drivers ahead. Right, we made it to the track. We got the live timing over here. So we're currently up to P9. You can just zoom into the timings. Our next target is P8, so it's Algorithmic Ascendancy. Very, very interesting name. They're only about half a second up the road. So target is Philip is trying to get up to P8 before he substitutes for Jack, I believe, who's going to be taking over. Now overnight a lot of disasters happened. Let's just be frank, let's just be real. We lost time through battling. I believe at one point, you know, we were trying to overtake a Sodi, got spun out onto the track, stuck on the grass for 2 minutes, and then the black flag was on us. After that, our sprocket went, so maintenance side of things. Didn't go once, it went twice. So twice we had to come into the pits, get the sprocket sorted. A lot of work to do. Let's see how Jack can do. We're gonna catch up with him. Philip took over from Tom at around 3 AM and drove a mega stint in the wet to bring us back up to P8 by 6 AM. But the rest of the race was damage limitation. As we took it in turns to do our final stints, Jack went on after Philip and unfortunately had more kart troubles, which caused him to pit and for us to fall all the way back down to P12 again. Just seems to be the unlucky number. And at this point we were so many laps down already that the only realistic finishing place for us was P11. I went on track after Jack, and this was probably my most ruthless stint in the race, where I had nothing to lose and I was driving each lap like a qualifying lap. And I really enjoyed this stint, and it made me appreciate the unique multi-class format that Daytona does in the 24-hour race every year. The D-Max drivers are constantly lapping multiple Sodi karts each lap, which means you need to clear the lap traffic as efficiently as possible. Otherwise, if you get stuck behind another driver, you'll lose valuable lap time, and that will add up across 24 hours. Perfect. Last stint done of the race. Honestly, the best stint. Left it all out there on the track. Hands are absolutely knackered. I was pretty sure I tore a callus over here, but that's going to be painful for next time. That's endurance racing. You know what? I'll tell you something. The steering wheel change that we did early in the weekend made a big difference because it was more comfortable to drive. I'm used to an owner car steering wheel as well, as we do a lot of that racing back home. So it was a nice one. This is an MS wheel. I'm due a steering wheel change as well, so maybe we can hit up JDR, Jack Dex Racing, huh? But in terms of the stint, it was a damp and drying track. So basically, it was getting drier. Lap times of mine were 1 minute 10 all the way down to 107. Kept it between 107 and 108 consistently. Also lapping traffic, which was so fun. You know, I told the guy, cameraman behind, that I'm gonna just send it in this race, and I mean, we sent it.
He did.
we were dive bombing left, right, center. I remember the best one was coming through turn 9. On the bumper of the guy, slay into the inside, dive bomb to the hairpin. So really, really enjoyed that. Overall, had the best experience. The result, yeah, from P3 was lost at midnight. We had the sprocket changes, we had the disqualification, well, not disqualification, the black flag. We had spin out, so all that, you know, adds up. Bal went out for his final stint after me, and Jensen would take over from him to do his final stint and take the checkered flag for our team. Jensen did manage to make the overtake on the last lap, so we finished this 24-hour race in P11. And honestly, it was a tough race. However, it was a long but thoroughly enjoyable weekend. I want to congratulate all of the teams who we raced against, and well done to the top 3 teams in each category. And I'd also like to say a massive thanks to all of the Daytona staff who contributed towards hosting this fantastic event. Just like that 24 hours was done. That was quick.
It was ridiculously fast. Like, I think the second part went faster than the first part once I had a bit of sleep. But my God, the first 12 hours was rough. At least for me. I don't know.
Did you stay awake the whole 12 hours in the initial part?
Yes. Yes.
And how many stints did you do?
I did 4 stints with 1 double stint.
I did my first stint about 9 o'clock, and it was just at sunset. That's actually where we met each other on track.
Yeah, exactly.
You were coming up towards behind me. How was that? Did you know it was me?
At first I didn't know it was you, and then I saw the cutter flag on the side, and then I was like, oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah,
here we go. And I saw your GoPro was working, so I was like, yes, we're doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
My GoPro had died at that point, so I was like, I need to get some good footage for Omar. And yeah.
We're trying to express that karting's for everyone. I mean, what sort of message do you have for people today?
For for me, it's like rental karting is probably one of the, it's not cheap, it's still racing, it's expensive, but it's the most affordable platform, and I think it has the best bang for buck in terms of just getting all the gremlins out and learning as much as you can, soaking up. Sim racing is great too, but you don't get the adrenaline, you don't get that real world, like seat of the pants feeling that you need to be able to go into cars and other forms of racing. So for me, also the attitude's great, like the vibe, like this is a competitive event, but like everyone's here, there's a camaraderie about it, because everyone's kind of suffering together, and I think that's quite cool.
Yeah, I think what you learn in karting is life skills, you know. Whether it's on track when you're winning, dealing with disappointment when you lose, dealing with pressure on track, and then the community aspect as well. So you meet so many different people. I think that's very important. If you can network, be outgoing, try and talk to people. A lot of people ask, how can I get into karting? You know, be regular at your track. Go and meet the regular drivers.
Yeah.
What else would you say for people getting into karting?
Well, honestly, and this is going to sound biased coming from me, but I honestly think content creation is a big part of it as well. Not that everyone should necessarily like aspire to be a YouTuber or anything, because it's hard to do YouTube and race at the same time, as you know. You're thinking about two different things.
Absolutely.
It's hard, but especially if you're trying to raise money, especially if you're trying to make an impression, especially if you're trying to get with good teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I got invited to this because of the videos, not because of any other racing I've done, really. You know, it comes down to that. And I got invited to a couple other 24 hours now because of this. So it's like, yeah, I mean, put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there, exactly. We love to meet other YouTubers, other drivers. If you're ever coming down Middle East to Qatar, you're welcome.
100%.
Let's stay in touch. We've got more than a 1 kilometer outdoor track there with road tax, rental, championships. We'd love to have you over and do some videos. And we got F1, so there's a lot to come for. You know,
100%. I'm down.
It's been a pleasure, Cameron.
Yeah, man. Great to finally meet you as well.
Likewise. Apparently, there's a race in October. And from the vibes and the atmosphere I felt in this race, we absolutely have to do that race in October. So comment below if you enjoyed this behind the scenes kind of video. The objective is to get you guys who are not here to experience how it is back home. And maybe encourage yourself with a group of friends. Join in the Saudis, join in DMAC. It is a load of fun. So you don't want to miss out on that. But until the next video, guys, see you next time. Goodbye.